Oh, and we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. It
Hello.
is obviously Thursday again. That's why you can see our faces here at 12:30 as we do another pop-up career Q&A session. If you're not familiar what this is, we're up here for 30 minutes to answer any career-related questions you might have. And you just need to ask them in the comments below. So this streams on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, right? So hi, if you can see us, just say hi in the comments so we can see you too. And yeah, don't be shy, ask your question.
Hi everyone. Yeah. Let us know as usual whether are we too loud, are we too soft, how's the audio quality, right? Okay. Shall we get started with the first question then?
Let's go.
All right. First question is guidelines for employee benefits. Are there any guidelines or minimum requirements for employees' benefits, for example, medical insurance, etc.? I notice some companies do not provide medical benefits or insurance. Is this okay?
Oh, this sounds more like a HR related, maybe even a legal question. I'm not sure if I have the answer to this. So yeah, does anyone here know the answer to this?
Okay, so from what I'm
Legally.
aware, from what I'm aware, statutorily speaking, the only requirements are like SOXO or like the annual leaves, all those. But in terms of like medical insurance or like benefit, like other benefits, like how do I put it? Commissions, all those things, they are not actually covered under the statute. So it's only very basic things like annual leave, sick leave, not medical insurance, sorry, and compensation, salary compensation. So anything that's like insurance, like oral, dental, all these things, they are all like extra. Yeah. So it will depend on your company. Yeah. There's no minimum guideline for that.
Yeah, so just upfront. So Kenny obviously used to study law, but we're not lawyers lah. So
Yeah.
you do. I suggest that you can double check. But I believe that's true though. What Kenny said, I believe that to be true. But do double check, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, we have a question coming in already. Yeah. So for anyone who's watching this, you can actually ask the question in the comments, and we'll pick it up and we'll answer them. So hi, I think it's Kim, right? Kim Yi.
Hi. Hi, can you
Hello,
help us answer?
Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
So Kim has asked, hi, can I ask how long should it take for someone to define whether he or she is learning in a current job?
How long should it take someone to define whether he or she is learning in the current job?
Meaning like building up momentum, probably. Like how long does it take for you to build your momentum in a job, in a new job?
How long does it? I'm trying to properly understand the question. How long should it take for someone to define whether he or she is learning in the current job? Are you saying as in after 1 year, if you don't feel, but yeah, I'd be surprised if you don't learn anything, right? Over any course of time, right? So maybe it's for you all, like you're obviously new in your jobs. What do you think is a good gauge?
I think the first year is like what I call the stupid year. like you really you learn like new things every day. Like on some days you really actually even after that you still there are days where you feel like you're stupid. Like how do I not know this? But I think a good gauge is probably like 2 years. Maybe like within 2 years, that's where you really learn all the basics that you need to know in the job and then like build your momentum and everything. And then after that, it's more of like maintaining that, yeah. But obviously after 2 years, you will still continue to learn. It's a never-ending learning journey. But in the first 2 years, be prepared to feel stupid. Yeah, be prepared to feel.
I like that actually. Probably when you start something, the learning curve is very steep, right? Like the first year, especially the first couple of months, lah. I'd be surprised, right, if you're not learning anything at all. So I don't think it quite stops then. And if you So if you think you're not learning, right, I would suggest two things. Number one, of the obvious one is really evaluate, whether what job you have, how come you're not learning anything. And number two, are you sure you're assessing it correctly that you're not learning? I find a lot of times people are learning something, but the expectation of what learning means is very different. Like even me right now, like I'm like mid-career, you could say, and I'm learning every day. Crazy, even like the small mundane things, the day-to-day stuff I'm learning. So I'm surprised if you say you're not learning at all. Something to think about, right?
Maybe they entered the job, like this new job, with like a certain expectation in their mind, and then when they, when they started the job like a couple of months in, and then they don't feel like whatever they're learning is what they expect to learn, and then they think they're not learning. So I think I would say like go in with little to no expectation, and then you will learn a lot from it.
I think sometimes you feel stagnant, like you're not actually doing anything because you're doing your day-to-day tasks. But for me, like a reminder of that I'm actually learning and still growing is when I have days like there's this new problem that comes up, or when I feel anxious, it's like, oh, am I doing enough? It's I'm starting to feel like I'm not progressing. Then I'll try to push myself, and that reminds me that, oh, actually I'm still learning. There's a lot of problems and new things that I haven't encountered yet. So don't let those like low days get you. You are learning, but a good way to think, if you're anxious, right, sometimes it's a good sign that you're actually learning and you're growing. If you're feeling super safe, then it might mean that you're actually complacent already.
Yeah, so sometimes a lot of people, they just wait for like the company to give them training, to train them, right? Or they say, oh, I'm doing almost the same day, every day, and I'm not getting new tasks, new challenges, so there's no room for me to learn. I will argue that sometimes if you're in that situation, you can learn how to improve your task. How would you deliver the same result faster, better, or even produce more result after learning how to make whatever you're doing more efficient. In life, everything learning, right, starts from you. And the company can give you training, send you to training, but you can just sit there and zone out and you don't learn anything at all. Personally, for me, right, sometimes I question what I do as well. Like, oh, is there a better way to do this? And a learning step for me is literally just Googling, how do I make this better, or what does this actually mean? And then I go into like a rabbit hole of different articles, different videos, and I come out actually, learning more things related to exactly the problems that I'm trying to solve, rather than a random course that the company sends me, for example. So I think
I really like that, actually, like that, as in to that point, right? So say I like to use sales as an example, because sales is like number driven, so it's easier to explain. So let's say if you're doing a sales job, you're doing it for a while, and then you feel like you're not learning, but then the main question is to be, are you the best salesperson in your organization? Are you the best salesperson in the country, in the world? Like, what's your number? Are you just average, but you say that you stopped learning? But actually, within what you're already doing, you just because you can do it doesn't mean you're very good at doing it. So there are two different things, So you're just constantly spaced to grow, right? And I think even like the world number one is always finding things to learn and grow and improve on what they already know. So maybe that's how the difference is, where how you define learning needs to change, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we spent a long time on this question. Let's go to another one. So sorry. We have lots of questions coming in.
So someone asked us on behalf of a friend, I'm good at English and Malay, but I find it quite difficult to find a job, as most of them require Mandarin-speaking candidates, which sometimes I don't see the relevance or need to the title. Is it fair for employers to set this kind of setting?
Well, I'll say in short, only if they're actually looking for Mandarin-speaking candidates. So there are a few ways to look at this. Number one, I'm just going to comment on the employer side. There are some jobs that genuinely need Mandarin-speaking candidates, but I don't think that's the majority. That's a very small percentage, right? Most jobs don't require Mandarin-speaking, so I don't think so. But I mean, to your statement saying that most of them require Mandarin-speaking candidates, I'm not sure. I mean, on WOBB, you can go through every job description. I don't think you could say most of them require. Mandarin speaking candidates, right? There are many that do not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can see it as really a barrier, is where I'm coming from, But I will comment to the employer side, like if you are, if your job doesn't really require someone to be Mandarin speaking, then don't do that, Don't list it as Mandarin speaking, right?
I like to say I understand the frustration, and especially for a person who can't speak Mandarin, and to see some of these ads, like, you always notice the bad things, even though they are not the majority. Those little things will bother you. Some employers do put this as a general requirement, but you can't actually say that there's no relevance to the title because you don't actually know what the company is like, what the job actually entails. You only know a basic description. You don't even know who's the customer base for the company. Maybe they speak to a lot of Chinese companies, or maybe traditionally the company is very Chinese and it might be easier to communicate for them. So it's very hard for a job seeker to actually judge whether or not it's relevant to the position. But it is a sad truth that some companies do use it to filter candidates that they don't like or something like that. But it shouldn't stop you. There are a lot of jobs out there that actually don't have language requirements, so you should give them a shot.
Yep. Is that all of our thoughts?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's move on to the next one, right? So someone asked, how do you tell a possible new employer that you left your previous job because of sexual harassment? Tell the truth or make an excuse? What do they really want to hear?
We got this question on off work the other day, right?
Oh, did we? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, I would say transparency is important, but you need to make sure that you are comfortable with opening up. If you are not comfortable with it, don't do it. We're not saying that you should tell the truth or you should make an excuse. Whatever your decision, make sure you're comfortable. In this case, I think you should place yourself first instead of the company. I know a lot of times we go into interview and when employers ask like, why should I hire you and everything, you put the company or employer first. But in this case, I think you should put yourself first. So if you're uncomfortable, don't talk about it,
Yeah, and then if you do decide to talk about it, right? And I think I had this conversation with Eleanor before. If you do decide to talk about it, then regardless of how the company reacts, right? That's up to them, And it's you. So you can, at the end of the day, you also decide which employer you want to join, right? So if you're transparent about it, and if the company is receiving it well, then good, right? If you think it distracts the conversation, you can still decide, I don't want to work at this employer, right? So it's up to you,
Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, let's. Are these all of our thoughts for this question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Jeffrey. As an employer, what is your opinion on job hopping? What's the ideal years of service for individual for them to stay in one company so that the interviewer like me would have a good impression?
What's the ideal years of service for individual for them to stay in one company so that interviewer like me would have a good impression? Well, I think kind of building on what Eleanor said earlier about the stupid years. For me, I think if you work in one company for 1 year, you were barely there. So what I mean is you probably spend a lot of time kind of learning on the job. You maybe at the point where you're starting to add value, but you definitely haven't quite done it yet, right? You're not going to walk away this company with any real valuable experience. So bare minimum, this is my opinion. A bare minimum for me is 2 years, but 2 years is just about made it. Even at 2 years, I'll probably be asking why do you leave? How come isn't there no space for progression there? Exactly what's the reason? I'd still be asking a lot of questions, but that would be like the bare minimum for me to feel like you walked away with something. Right. And also the reason why I also put 1 year is because sometimes someone goes into a job and let's say you're no good at it, right? And it may take 1 year before both the company and this employee make a decision that they're not a good fit. But in this entire, actually, they are not a good fit. You see what I'm trying to get at, right? So they were not, and it could be that they were not suitable for the job. So if someone is working in the company for less than 1 year, I have this big question mark whether they can even perform the job in the first place or not. How come you're leaving now? So 2 years, my opinion.
My opinion is like, I mean, what Derek's said is, I would agree. Given that, if it's actually related to job and performance, sometimes you have to give the benefit of the doubt that some companies are, the culture and the environment just doesn't really fit the candidate. Some companies might be a bit, has a toxic environment. So, give them the benefit of the doubt if you see like they leave in a few months' time. But if that happens like at one time, or it's still okay. But if you see like one whole year they switch like 3-4 companies and they work in like 2-3 months like that, that's kind of, it's an indication that perhaps it's the candidate's issue already. If everybody is the problem, sometimes you're the problem. But like I said, having like one time where they work only for 3 months, just give them the benefit of the doubt, dig through it a little bit on why they actually wanted to leave and move on in the first place.
Yeah, typically I'm forgiving of one. So what I mean is that, like, if someone's worked in a company for say 3 or 4 years, and then they worked in another company for like 4 months, I give it a pass because they have a track record of being able to stay and grow in a company for 4 years. Right. So the next one, maybe it didn't work out, so they left. Right. So, but therefore, I want to add on to this. This rule applies to you if you are in your early career. So unfortunately, right, if it's your first job and you leave after 3 or 4 months, the challenge grows significantly because you don't have a track record of staying in a company for long, right? And then you take the next job, and let's say you stay another 6 months. It's tough. I mean, upfront, I'm going to tell you, right? Your CV, right, with 2 jobs, short stints, and no track record of staying in a company for very long, it's going to be a real challenge. So this is the reality of how employers will look at your CV. So anyway, so just building on what Brian said, one is forgivable.
Mm-hmm. Right. Diana has asked, how long should I wait after an interview to be called back, whether I got accepted or rejected?
1 week.
Yeah.
I think 1 week is a reasonable time.
Yeah, I think between 1 to 2 weeks.
2
haven't
weeks.
heard back after an interview, you can send them an email. Just say, hi, I had an interview last week. I just wanted to follow up, and the employer can see whether or not if the employer might have forgotten. It will be, I forgot about this candidate, and they'll be reminded.
Yeah.
No
1
harm.
week is a good healthy gap, I would say. So even if they genuinely haven't evaluated properly, you kind of trigger them to kind of look at you again, and then you kind of jump on top of the pile, if you like, right? So, we talked to this person. So 2 weeks, I think is borderline a bit late already, so I think 1 week is about nice.
Yeah. What I like to do is, after the interview, I just ask, when can I expect to hear back from you? So you kind of like, I understand when you apply for a job, right, you're not applying for one job, going for one interview, and you have to juggle, multiple interviews at different times. Perhaps the time for acceptance is very different as well. So asking that you're able to kind of plan your time a little bit, after the deadline, they say you can drop an email to write in, but you still don't hear from them a few days, I would move on. Yeah. All right, the next question, shall we?
Yeah.
So Tan Yik Jen has asked, hi, may I know, is it a good company to work in if the boss expects you to OT every day, even you had finished your job during working hours? Very little detail.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm not okay. So on the assumption, you mean you have no work left to do, Is that what you're saying? Then how do you OT? I wonder.
That's why.
Yeah.
What do you do?
What are you doing? So you say you finish your job, and then they ask you to OT. Are you saying that the boss expects you not to go home and just stick around? Because there's a difference. I mean, I have heard stories of some companies who do this, as in like, oh, you can't go back before your manager, as some kind of unwritten rule. And so people, what happens is even if you finish your work at like 6, but your manager works till like 8 or 9, if you go back at 6 is disrespectful. So you hang around, to 8 or 9, then manager leaves, and it shows like, you are committed to your career. Well, actually, they don't have a lot of work to do, but I'm not sure how common companies like this are. And of course, if I'm actually talking to the company, right, I like to tell you that the people that tell me stories like this also tell me that because they know they can't leave before their manager leaves, they spread out their work until 9 o'clock, but they could have finished at 6, So they kind of take it slow and stuff like that. So in the end, right, the result is the same. And actually what happens is you have someone who's slow. So you're not even training an efficient person. There are people just work slow. Actually, they're weaker. If you look at people as like professional sports players, right, they become weaker sports players. The fact that they are spreading their work longer. So I think the term for this is presentism or something like that. So if this is the case, the presentism means that you're just present because you want people to see you in the office without actually real reason to be there. I think mindsets are changing. I hope they are. So if you're referring to this, right, then yes, then the company is not good to have this mindset. But if you're saying that when you OT, there's actually work to do, then I'm not sure if you have actually the statement that you've actually finished your job during working hours. I'm not sure how accurate that is. Maybe there is a lot of work. I'm not sure. So I'm just based on this one sentence, I'm trying to imagine what possibilities there might be.
Yeah, I that's exactly my thoughts as well. Anything from you, Kenny, Eleanor?
No, actually, probably
All right, then
that sums it up.
Question.
Yeah.
So Arcana has asked, companies are only hiring on contract nowadays. What is the general company's perspective looking at employees with short employment experience in various companies? With my 12 years of HR exposure, I find it quite challenging to get a job, especially working with various temporary or contractual positions.
So your first sentence is companies are only hiring on contract nowadays. Well, hi, Achana. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. So your question is more of you have worked in multiple roles before because it's on contract, so your CV looks a bit jumpy. Is that what you're saying? It's a bit related to one of the previous questions about like job hopping. I actually think that if you can clearly state there's a contract on your CV, then it might make a difference. Of course, even as an employer, sometimes I do interview people who work on contract before. The very normal question I would ask them is, wasn't there an option to renew the contract? Because I would be curious. So is it like a contract that's definitely fixed after 1 year, 6 months, then there's no chance of renewal? Or was it not renewed maybe because the employee didn't quite meet the expectation of the company? I mean, that's what the employer's thought process is like. I'm not saying that whether or not you met the expectation. I'm just helping you imagine what the employer is looking for, what questions they have. And if you can help answer those questions, the employer's mind to say that, I mean, it's a fixed contract and they'll move to another contract, etc. I don't think it would be an issue, but you probably need to address it at the interview stage. That's probably the place. And your challenge would be to even get to the interview with the CV. So try to put very clear on the CV, it's a contract. If it's a fixed term contract, state there, maybe even state the reason why the contract was not renewed, something that kind of answers that question in the employer's head.
Yeah, if you're referring to the current world events right now, the human malware happening, I think companies are quite understanding on why you would be employed through a contractual agreement right now. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but everything else, I think Derek has already covered already. So
yeah, contracts are common now, by the way. So anyone looking for
Yeah.
a job, I would say don't shy away from a contract. Like I know the in the old, like in before, we always say like permanent job is better than contract. That's like the mindset most people have because of the stability and the the security of having a permanent job. But if you can't get a permanent job but you have a contract job on the table, do it. Just take it. It's better than not having a job. Like actually gaining the experience is better than zero experience. So and as Brian said, we are in a period where most people would be would not see that contract differently right now because they realize what the market is like.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Looks like we have more questions coming
Yeah,
in.
we have about 4 minutes left.
We try to squeeze one or two in.
Yeah, so Jen has asked on behalf of their friend. She interviewed her dream job, but her dream job did not call her for a few weeks after the interview. She didn't wait, and now she is working at another company. But now suddenly her dream job called her and wanted to accept her. May I know whether my friend should resign and go for her dream job or stay in her current company?
Dream job. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder why it took so long. I have so many follow-up questions. For example, how different is the current job from your dream job? Are you sure it is really your dream job? So many different things. So if let's say if the difference is not that big, right, and the place that you're working at right now is you be kind of decent, I think you should stay in where you are because they obviously came back to you first and all that, right? And the reason and you can always go back to that dream job. You can always try to apply to that dream job later if you manage how you reject the offer right? And so like say something along the lines of, oh, I just accept the offer, but I still love your company and perhaps in future I might apply. Something like something
don't
very
burn any bridges.
don't burn any bridges, so you can try. I mean, if those two are not that far, because what I can tell you about dream jobs is that most of the time, almost not almost all, I think all companies are not perfect. Like what you know about them is only on the outside, and when you go in, you see all the flaws It's very normal, right? Even the best companies in the world, when you go in, you'll find out, oh, it's just like a lot of things it's just like any other company. A lot of things about the work is just like any other company. So, so you might shatter that image once you actually go in. But having said that, if the dream job is very different from your current job that you're doing, and this dream job has a very bright career path, very different career path than what you're doing, then I would pick going to that dream job that you have. But I'm answering based on what I know.
I think you should make a rational decision instead of emotional decision. I know that like if you were to like forgo this, you think like you might regret, and then like at the back of your head, or what if I accepted it and things like that. But it's like what Derek said, you have to, I think, very rationally analyze what is the path that you'll be taking in that dream job or your dream company, and also if you were to take that job on your CV, if let's say things don't go well in that dream company, and you're applying to another company, and in future the other employer will ask you, how come you stayed for only a month in that company and then you left? It's like it's not good on your portfolio definitely.
It's not. Like joining a company for sure and leaving, it doesn't look good.
The grass always seems greener on the other side. So like a pros and cons list, evaluate it logically and not just by gut feeling.
But I just give an example of where I would say you change would be, I give an extreme example. Let's say your dream job is to do marketing, or let's say digital marketing, and the current job that you took is doing something very different, let's say admin or operations, something like that, so extremely different from that, then I think it's justifiable. You said I prefer the marketing role, in that kind of extreme. But if it's not, then really think properly whether it's really that dream job you think it is or not.
Yeah, I think it's important to make the distinction that whether or not this is your dream job or dream company, because a lot of the time it's mostly a company difference instead of a job difference. So those are two different things.
Right. Oh, we're almost out of time, but can we
squeeze one more? Okay, last one. Okay.
with your lucky day, Julie. Should I stay at a company in which they still provide salary like entry level after working for about 4 years?
Okay. That seems quite unusual.
Mm.
Let me think, what company would this be? I suppose it might be a company where they have a big team of people that does like very repetitive work, and there's not much of a ladder to climb. I imagine that might be the situation. I mean, let's say you have one manager versus like say 50 staff. Maybe they are calling. I don't know what exactly, but there are some companies that are structured in this way. That might be possible, and your work is probably very routine, like working in a factory like that, I imagine. So I'm not looking, I wouldn't look at it so much from a salary point of view. I'm more interested in the career growth point of view. So with the assumption that your salary is the same, that also means that you're doing the same work from 4 years ago, from day one that you come in which case I would say you need to seek career growth. Go pick a job where you can see a future. So even if that next job that you pick, right, is paying less than what you're earning now, assuming you can afford it, or the same, right, you pick that job if you believe that job has a future, has a path up. Yeah, so I'm not, don't look at salary. Like I am using your salary to understand what you're saying. But even your next job, if the salary is the same as what you're earning now, but the path is bigger or brighter, or it's a possibility that you pick that. So always choose career growth, right? The money follows your career, right? So don't think money. So I think money is the wrong question to start at. The right question is start at, can I grow in this job? Then the money will follow.
Yeah, exactly. I would think number one is is the company's entry level salary very high. But 4 years is very, very unusual.
But even at 4 years, it would change, right? Even if your entry level job is a normal company, unless you're really doing the same job from day one, and at year 4 you're still doing the same job, then probably that's why you're earning the same pay.
It really depends on usually, what you prioritize. Career growth, many people prioritize that, but if money is your priority, perhaps you have a lot of commitments, right? There are quite a lot of jobs where they do pay quite high salary, like shift work, for example, or like customer support for entry level. I'm just purely speaking about entry level. They do pay very, very high, but you have to decide whether you're up for this kind of challenges that comes with the jobs. Are you willing to work shift, work at times where people are sleeping and you're working? But that's totally up to you, Julie. We have very little information to go with to advise you for this, unfortunately. But do take what we have said into consideration when you're deciding.
I want to add one more comment. So the other thing I'll probably ask is, are your colleagues also in the same position as you, or are they growing? I mean, if they are growing and they're earning higher salary, then it's not really an issue with the company so much. You have to take a step back and ask yourself, how come I'm not growing in my role? That means you see other people around you growing. So it would be a bit of a jump to say that it's my company that's paying me the same entry level, but you see people not actually growing. So it's not related to the company. So some self-reflection also as to maybe it's a different job that you need to be taking. But if you're saying the entire company is like this, all your colleagues have been there for 5 years, everyone's earning the same, then okay, valid Then you have to think about how to grow what's the best path for you.
Yep. So that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So for those that actually didn't get your questions answered, you can actually head over to Awkward. It's a forum that we created for people to ask career questions. So if you have any questions that haven't got any answers, or you have more, please join us on Awkward at Facebook, OFFWERK, and we actually have mentors from other different industries, and you can get answers from different peers as well. So do join us there, and hopefully we can create a better community there and help you with your career.
Thank you, everyone. I see someone saying 30 minutes is too short. I know. I have to go eat my lunch now. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
but,
why we
see
have
you
off work.
next Thursday. I appreciate the
Yeah, see you
feedback
next-
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
See you
think
next
for anyone that
Thursday.
even though you can't actually ask any question now, you can kind of leave a comment with some of your feedbacks. We'll pick it up. If you like what we're doing, give us like a thumbs up. If you want your friends to see this, you could share it as well. So also we know that you're appreciating this initiative lah that we're doing, and we'll keep
Yeah.
doing it.
So yeah, thank you for your feedback. But right now, if you do want to have a platform to post your question, 24/7, right? Go to off work. You post it there, and we'll answer it. Right now, some of us are actually moving there right now to see if there's anybody who goes there, and ask us questions that we were unable to answer right now. All right. So see you at off work. Catch you next Thursday again for another pop-up Q&A. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.